The movie opens with Roger, a father, questioning a man about the whereabouts of a lady named Natasha. After learning that she's in LA and pregnant with his child, he takes a gun from Paula, a sister he rolls with. He takes out a book, prays with him to ask for forgiveness and shoots him in the head. 5 months later, Natasha is heavily pregnant with Vern lying next to her. Natasha is bothered the baby is almost on its way, but they aren't prepared for its coming. They travel from city to city, invading people's homes, spending nights there and stealing jewelry and money for their upkeep. Vern assures her he'll get things done in no time even though he isn't the dad. A police siren blows and in fear, Vern takes his gun to watch if it's coming their way, but gladly it passes by the house. Leaving the house, Vern thanks the couple for letting them stay and apologizes for blowing up their bathroom. Natasha goes to sell off the jewelry and other belongings they stole. After bargaining and settling on a final price, the items had to be verified by the sheriff first to make sure they weren't stolen. Upon hearing that, she starts acting nice and saying all sorts of things about her pregnancy, both truth and lies. He doesn't seem to care about the stories she's making and hands her a towel to wipe off her crocodile tears. Natasha throws the tissue into her face and packs the stolen items away after the man rejected her offer to buy them at a lower price. She joins Vern in the car, trying to figure out what to do next. After a long argument, they finally decide to find another place to spend the night again. Somewhere else, an old couple, Martha and Bob, are having a conversation. Bob wants to plant more trees around the house to enhance their privacy. Later, he excuses himself to change and go to the club. Their neighbor, Cole, is on a call, tasking someone to kill a lady, but as the person feels it isn't right to do that because she isn't the killer, he cusses him and hangs the call up, turning to see a car passing by his house slowly. That's Vern's car, trying to spot their next house for invasion. Martha is doing her crochet when she hears a knock on the door. She asks Vern if he's Samuel and he says no. Vern continues with his tactics, trying to convince Martha so as to get a chance to enter the house and do his thing. When Martha tries to prove stubborn, he pulls out his gun and points it at her. Martha tries to forcefully take it out of his hand, but Natasha takes her gun out and shoots Martha dead on the spot. Bob shows up and also gets killed on the spot. Vern is going through the stuff and finds a locked wooden cupboard. He breaks it open and at once his face lights up with excitement about what he saw. The couple hid drugs in the cupboard. In no time, they hear the bell ring. He's Samuel, the guy Martha was expecting earlier on. He doesn't know Martha and Bob by face, so he mistakes Vern and Natasha to be his hosts. Natasha hands him a black bag with drugs in it when she hears he's there for his stuff. In return, he gives them a brown envelope containing a bundle of money. Just what they needed to make their lives better. In a car, a man named Pedro is talking about his new business with Bob. He mentions that this time around Bob is going to work for him. The driver hears this and calls his colleague agent, informing him about all that she heard. The stench from Martha and Bob's dead body is gradually spreading to the whole house, so they have to find a place to bury them. They wait till late night to take the bodies somewhere and dispose of them. On their way, Vern starts showing symptoms of being high. He sniffed the cocaine he was packing today. With top speed, he passes by a police car, which trails him until he stops. He patiently waits for the officer to get to him and hands him money as a bribe. The officer refuses it and orders him to get out of the car. Natasha comes up with an idea to get them out of the situation. She pours water and acts like her water broke, telling them she's in labor. Vern reaches out to the trunk of his car for towels, forgetting the dead bodies are in there. The officer, seeing this, tries to pull out his gun. Natasha notices it and shoots him dead. They have 3 bodies to hide now. The next morning, Vern digs graves to bury the dead bodies in their backyard. Still searching for Natasha, Father Roger goes to the neighborhood where people live in converted buses. He speaks to Morgan, the lady that rented a room for Natasha some time ago. They give her money in exchange for information about Natasha's whereabouts. Morgan didn't give them the information they needed, so they left a note to give to Natasha if she hears from her. Pedro is in Bob's house. Natasha and Vern, after burying the bodies, walk into the house and find Pedro in there. He hasn't met Bob and Martha before, so Natasha and Vern hide their true identities from him and play along. Pedro walks to the table and picks his 90% share of the money. Something Vern and Natasha weren't aware of. Morgan calls Natasha the next day and asks her to call back. Vern and Natasha begin to discuss what to do with Pedro. Vern thinks he's too innocent to be killed, so they leave him to continue what he originally came for. Natasha calls Morgan back. Tears fall from her eyes when she hears Father Roger is after her and leaves a note for her saying her sins have been forgiven, and she is always welcomed back. Natasha tells her to inform Father Roger she never heard of her. Natasha is relaxing herself, breathing in and out when their neighbor walks by and introduces himself. Natasha also presents herself as though she is Martha. Micah will be visiting Bob and Martha today. He knows them already and as a result won't fall for Vern and Natasha's lies. Vern takes Pedro outside to fix a broken snowblower while Natasha welcomes Micah into the house. She introduces herself as Martha's niece and excuses herself. She returns with some drugs she found in the washroom, puts it in the apple juice she serves him with and leaves to tell Vern she drugged him. Pedro goes back into the house to enjoy his apple juice. Micah hears Pedro calling Vern Bob and immediately Vern pushes him to the floor, killing him with his bare hands. Later in the evening, while digging Micah's grave, their neighbor watches them from his yard. Father Roger and Paula go back to Morgan to seek information about Natasha. After getting what they want, he brings out his book and recites a prayer whilst Paula takes the lead with the intent to kill her. She takes her phone and unlocks it with her finger to fetch Natasha's number. The next day, Agent Cooper goes to spy on Bob in his house and sees their neighbor, Cole, fixing an explosive under Vern's car. Cole visits Vern and Natasha with cookies. He knows they aren't who they say they are and also knows about the dead bodies they bury every now and then. Vern pulls out his gun in an attempt to kill him but stops immediately when Cole shows him the explosives he's carrying. He'll be putting them in a great mess if he pulls the trigger. To keep him quiet about their mess, he wants them to kill someone for him. He wants Dr. Sarah dead. He thinks she is responsible for his wife's death because she trusted her and in the end, his wife still died. Vern and Natasha excuse themselves to discuss how they're going to do it. Vern comes up with a plan that they both leave, like going to carry out Cole's job, but they will rather run off with the money they've gathered to begin a new life. Immediately after his speech ends, they hear Cole telling them they can't go together. He now has no choice than to carry out the kill job. Pedro wakes up from his long drug sleep, asking about Micah and what happened to him. Cole tells Vern to go with Pedro since he can't be taking care of a big baby like him, and threatens to blow everyone up if he doesn't. While Vern and Pedro wait for Dr. Sarah to arrive from work, they have a little conversation. Pedro tells Vern to change his car, but he loves the old car, Percy, so much that he can't leave it for a new one. Back at home, Natasha is all alone with Cole and worried if something will happen to them. Cole asks her if she's scared they'll run away without her. She says no and he tells her he won't leave his own kid alone with her. Her face changed the moment she heard that. Cole figures out the kid isn't Vern's and tells her Vern truly loves her and the kid for accepting to be with both of them. This puts a little smile on her face. Natasha then asks Cole if he has kids. He tells her he lost his son 1 week to his due date of birth. Some time later, after recovering from the trauma of his death, his wife also died. Dr. Sarah finally comes home with a white car. Vern brings the gun out and tells Pedro they're there to kill her. Pedro starts screaming when Vern points the gun at Sarah. She tries to offer them money, but that isn't what he came there for. Vern changes his mind about killing her. He decides to take her with them so that Cole can kill her himself. Natasha and Cole hear the doorbell ring. Natasha goes to check who it is. She freezes in shock, seeing it is Father Roger at the door. He stretches his arms, reaching Natasha's belly. Agent Cooper is still there, spying on whatever that is going on in the house. She slaps his hands off her belly while Cole walks into them. He asks what Father Roger is there for and he tells him he's there to take Natasha with him. Cole tells them she can't go anywhere because they have to close their unfinished business before he or Natasha can step out. Again, Vern is stopped by a police officer on his way to the house. Pedro starts freaking out upon seeing a police officer is after them. Vern calms him down a little till the officer approaches them. Vern realizes he has the same surname as the officer he met the other night, when he was going to dispose of Bob and Martha's bodies. The officer says it's his twin brother and further asks if he knows where he could be. Vern denies knowing where he is. The officer ends their conversation, telling Vern to fix his tail light and drives away. Pedro starts talking about what his real passion is. He wanted to be a fashion designer. Dr. Sarah uses this as an opportunity to escape and call for help. Vern sees her from the mirror and straight away they move out of the car to go after her. Vern explains to her they aren't going to kill her, so she should go and explain things to Cole when she sees him. She refuses and tries to run away. She gets chucked by a stone and falls to the ground. Vern checks her and finds out she's dead. Father Roger takes out his gun to shoot Cole. Natasha tells him not to, otherwise they all will die. Cole shows him the explosives and tells him if he pulls the trigger he will be preaching in a warmer place. Father Roger doesn't mind what they are telling him and goes ahead to shoot Cole. He apologizes for lying to Natasha all this while about the explosives and falls to the ground. Vern and Pedro arrive at the house with the explosive still attached to his car. Father Roger is pulling Natasha out of the house when he meets Vern and Pedro outside. The agent joins them in no time and orders them to drop their guns. He says he's after Bob only and starts calling him out. Bob tells him he killed Bob. Pedro realizes Vern isn't Bob and he killed Martha too. Upon hearing this, Agent Cooper goes on to arrest Vern. Pedro runs to them, taking Agent Cooper's gun and shooting him. Cole comes out of the house with a gun, also shooting at Father Roger and Paula. Pedro joins him, killing Paula. Father Roger tries escaping with Natasha. Natasha fights back and pulls away. Vern takes him out in a second and Natasha also grabs the gun and gives him 6 extra bullets. After some minutes, Father Roger's hand tightens, pressing on the button to the explosive, causing Vern's car to explode. 3 months later, Natasha is finally living in her dream house with her baby girl, Bob and Pedro. They still deal in drugs. Pedro has made handling the drugs more fancy with his sense of fashion. His dream of becoming a fashion designer has been fulfilled.